Good Wednesday morning to everybody. It is July 31st, 2024. Whew, the last day of July. We're plowing through summer. It's crazy. August tomorrow. This is the second recording this week of the Tasty Twist podcast with Sammy B. I am Sammy Blanchett. It's nice to see everybody here. Episode number 4, recording live at the Okemo Valley TV studio. Patrick, Rebecca, thank you guys for having us once again here today. Yesterday we had the veteran, Mr. Jim Yeager from the Upper Valley. And so far, we've had Zach Yakaitis and Allie T. Today, I'm very happy to introduce a homegrown Vermont local musician here coming out of Plymouth, Vermont. He hosts a songwriting recording session at the Ludlow Fletcher Memorial Library once or twice every couple of weeks or months, I believe. He's also been a staple at open mics at the Killarney Irish Pub, at the Salt Hill Pub in Lebanon, and he's got a handful of shows coming up this month and beyond in September and October, and that is our good friend, Mr. Max Casano. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome, my friend. So one of the basic questions to start an interview or a podcast episode in May, how did you get started? When did you start playing? And did you take lessons along the way?
Yeah, so I guess I would have to say that my my entry into music kind of started when I was younger. I took Suzuki piano lessons, actually. And I hated it. I couldn't stand it.
Suzuki, wow. So what kind of an instrument is that? I should know.
So it's where you learn to play music all by ear. You don't learn to read music until you can play it completely by ear. So it's a little bit of a different approach.
Yeah.
And it's all classical music too.
Okay.
Looking back, I wish I had kind of stuck with it. It's really cool, but at the time I was not into it, and I think I did it for about 7 years, I want to say, until I was like 13.
What was the biggest challenge? As I know you mentioned before we started recording this, that you're not as familiar with music theory. Was it learning the scales by ear that was the hardest part?
Well, at the time, I didn't really know the difference, honestly. I would say that the hardest part for me was more just not loving classical music, I think. Like if I was playing more like rock and roll or something, that I would have been a little more into.
Rock and roll is usually the introduction for most people when they're learning an instrument, especially guitar for the first time, I would think.
Yeah, that kind of was my intro into guitar.
Who was your biggest influence rock and roll wise to start?
Biggest influence? Well, probably Pearl Jam, honestly. My parents used to take me to Pearl Jam concerts all the time when I was younger.
Fun experience?
Definitely, yeah. I feel pretty lucky to be able to go. I mean, they were in like the front row too.
Were they your first ever concert?
They were, yeah.
Yeah.
A few of them, actually.
When did you first see them? Because they still rock after all these years.
They do, yeah. I first saw them before they started getting big. I was probably like 10 years old.
Nice. Nice.
Back in 2002, I guess.
Do you have to wear earplugs to start at that age at concerts because they could be really
loud? I remember being like one of the few younger people at the concert.
You look around the stadium and everyone else is not wearing them. I'm like, wait, why am I the only one wearing these? Yeah. Because funny story, the Allman Brothers Band was the first show that I saw when I was 12, and my dad took me and suggested me to wear earplugs also as well too. And I was looking around. And I thought the same thing. Nobody else is doing this but me. Yeah. So did you start listening to Pearl Jam records and try figuring it out yourself?
Honestly, I never really got into like playing Pearl Jam when I was younger. I mean, after I stopped with the piano, I did take up guitar lessons for a little bit. But
when
I was mostly playing the Beatles.
When did you start doing that?
I think I was around like 14.
Okay.
And I didn't really stick with it for too long, but I just kind of learned enough to have like a very entry-level understanding of what was going on. I think I learned how to play Sgt. Pepper on the guitar. That was like my first song.
What was your first Beatles album or song that you were really exposed to?
It was probably Sgt. Pepper. I mean, I remember I had like the music book, and that for some reason that song just always drew me in. I don't know.
Yeah. There's this Beatles album. It was the first one that I ever listened to. I was probably 11 or 12 as well. When I first picked up my guitar, I was 10 and started taking lessons when I was 13. But it was that album with 27 of their greatest hits, and it just had the number 1 on it. That's a great album. It starts with Love Me Do, and I believe it ends with The Long and Winding Road. So it goes in chronological order of the Beatles throughout their history. It was really cool.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Sgt. Pepper was a track on that album. It had to have been. I
fun
would imagine.
song.
Yeah.
I have to say, now I don't really listen to the Beatles at all anymore.
Do you have a favorite band now in your early 30s that you listen to a lot, primarily?
I do. I'd probably have to say the band Camp, CAAMP.
Okay.
They're probably one of my favorites.
Kind of
They're
music?
like indie rock
Indie rock,
genre.
yeah.
But I like a lot of different stuff. I do listen to some outlaw country stuff too, like Tyler Childers and Zach Bryan.
He's
I'm
great.
into.
Yeah. Have you gotten into Noah Kahn yet?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
He was probably a big inspiration for me getting started, like doing all this and just having fun with it.
Have you seen him live since he's gotten big, or when he was more a Vermont resident?
I saw him at the World Cup, and that was pretty amazing up in Killington.
This past year?
Yeah.
Or was it the year before? This past year?
No, it was the year before.
The year before,
actually.
okay, yeah.
I don't know if he'll do it again. He's gotten maybe too big for that now, but it was really cool. He was like up there in like his overalls and t-shirt in the snow.
Yeah. You mentioned before we started recording, you're big into using TikTok and Instagram for a music promotional, but did you happen to see any clips from fans from his recent 2-night run at Fenway Park, Noah Kahn?
I did actually, yeah.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, pretty amazing. He seemed so humble and laid back by just, this is incredible. He's wearing Red Sox uniform and just being in front of that many people. He looked like really taken back. And Noah seems like such an incredible, like, feel-good story, like a Vermonter that's just made it big. It's amazing to see.
Definitely, yeah, and so fast too. I mean, it's only been like a few years, I feel like, that no one really even knew who he was, and now he was on Saturday Night Live and he's playing at Fenway, so
yeah.
It's cool to see.
You mentioned about learning from ear, but did you ever, at any point when you were first learning piano and guitar, take lessons with people?
I did, but again, I would never really read music. It was always kind of just learning the chords and memorizing, a lot of memorizing.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really stick with the guitar for too long, the lessons, when I was younger, and I stopped playing for a long time, and I didn't pick it back up again until my like mid-20s, really.
Was it because of other interests or life, work?
I think I just got to the point where I was like singing along to all these songs, and I was like, I should play the guitar again. That was so fun. And I just I would come home. I was working this like serving job up in Burlington, and I would bike home from the restaurant at night, like singing the songs on my iPad or iPod, and then I'd get home and like play music all night long.
How long did you live up in Burlington?
Fun with it.
How long did you live up in Burlington?
I was up there for about a year. But I was just getting into the music, so I wasn't really like playing out or playing with other people.
Some pretty cool venues up there, though, between Higher Ground, Nectar's, and just a bunch of other cool clubs for open mic opportunities, I would imagine.
There are, definitely. And actually, in the last year, I've been up there a few times playing some different open mics. And
you ever check out the Underground Bar Orlando's?
No, I haven't heard of it.
I actually have a gig coming up there. It's right near Church Street. But yeah, it's an underground bar. It's pretty cool. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
There's some great places up there. Definitely a lot of open mics. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you mentioned you've worked in the restaurant industry also, too. You mentioned you were doing like a serving job.
Yeah, I was working as a server up there, and that's kind of what I do here, too. I work in town at Stemwinder.
Right. And you mentioned you did landscaping also, too?
Yes, so I have pretty much like 3 part-time jobs. I have with music, and I'm trying to make that like the biggest one.
Yeah.
I'm playing gigs, but then I have my serving job too, which is on weekends, and then I am doing like part-time gardening work. Midweek.
How do you like balancing all 3? As time-consuming as it is.
I'm the kind of person who likes that. I feel like I kind of get bored with one thing if I'm doing it all the time.
Same, sometimes too. Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to have all these different like outlets for everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Just want to remind everybody here on the podcast here that we're interviewing Max Cassano from Plymouth, Vermont, now a Ludlow, Vermont resident and musician. I want to remind everybody that when the episodes are released, they are available on live cable television, as well as you can find them on okemovalley.tv. With television, it's locally on Comcast Channel 1076, VTEL Channel 166. on demand at Okemo Valley TV, the Okemo Valley TV YouTube channel, and you can also download the app on Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, and your phones also as well too. Max, you mentioned in the pre-warm up that you're looking possibly to see where things are going from more part-time musician to maybe full-time.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying it so far, and I would love to make a career of it. I mean, I've seen that it's possible from people in the area, including yourself. So it's really it's cool that we have that available here to us. I think it seems like a great thing to do.
When I moved up here from Connecticut, I was talking to Jim Yeager about this yesterday. He's originally from Philadelphia. Both him and I, in our respective journeys, have been blown away by the incredible supportive network of musicians of all backgrounds and ages up here in Vermont. Vermont is, in my opinion, a state that really embraces the arts and the entertainer still after all these years. I'm assuming you probably have a similar feel as far as the network of people we have up here.
Definitely, yeah. And I would have had no idea that it really existed if I hadn't gone out and started playing open mics. But I mean, I think the first one I played, you were hosting at Neil's place.
Yeah, the old Neil's, yep, in Rogersville. Neil, shout out to you, man. We reached out to you yesterday also too on here. So yeah,
cool.
Chatting, yeah. No, that was cool. Yeah, we did that on Thursday nights leading right up until March 20, obviously with COVID. And you had experience at the old Du Jour VT in Ludlow, Vermont with the Open Mics Taco Tuesday with King Arthur Jr. Shout out to King Arthur, who hosts every other week at the Killarney Open Mic Pub. But yeah, you enjoy the open mic experience in your career so far?
I do. I love it. I was at a point kind of last winter where I was playing a lot of gigs and I wasn't really getting to do as many open mics anymore. Yeah. And then this summer I had a lot of free time and I started going out and challenging myself to do as many as I could. And I was doing 4 a week, which was really cool. And I have to say that the community has just been so supportive and just made me feel so comfortable.
Absolutely.
And encouraging, and that's just great to see. So
when you play at open mic shows, when it's your time, do you get a flexibility of 1, 2 to maybe 5 or 6 songs? I guess it depends on how many other musicians are in there at any given night.
That's one thing I've learned is that every open mic is very different and it really depends on the night, the host. I mean, it's up to them on how they want to run things.
It's got to be fun collaborating with other artists by the host choice as well, too, right? Just hey, you want to come up and jam with this guy now? Or
definitely.
Let's add him to the fold.
Yeah, and there are a couple open mics in the area that have a little house band that will sit in with you and play drums and play bass. And so you have a full sound, which is really cool. And
have you ever done the Skunk Hollow up in Heartland?
I have. That's definitely one of my favorite ones.
That's a fun one.
I feel like that was one of my first experiences really getting to play with a full band and having it just come together so naturally. I mean, those guys are all so talented that I feel like they just did a great job at picking up the song I was playing, which was really cool.
Did you ever go to the Skunk Hollow when Jim Yeager was hosting it? He did it for about 5 years.
I haven't. I've heard that he was running it for a long time. I think I actually did go, funny actually enough, with Neil. He used to...
I did too, yeah.
He was the manager at the Echo Lake Inn when I worked there.
Yeah, that's right.
So we would go over there sometimes after work and check out the open mic.
Was just there for dinner last night, actually, Echo Lake Inn. Shout out to Tom and his crew. They do a great job there. Yeah. No, Neil introduced me to Jim Yeager many times over the years. When I was chatting with Jim yesterday, I think I first met him when he was working at, when he was playing music at Bentley's in Woodstock, and then he was also hosting the Skunk Hollow open mic for 5 years at that time. But that was the second time I met Jim, and yeah, just such a great veteran, presence around here, doing it as long as he has. But
I just kind of met him this year at the Skunk Hollow Tavern, going over there playing open mics
as well
this summer, and he's usually there hanging out if he's free. So
yeah, that's all. Have you ever jammed with him?
I haven't actually. No, I would like to though. He's really talented. I saw him playing. He was over at Springfield at the golf course over there one night, and
Crown Point Country Club.
Yeah, Crown Point. I have to say his sound is so full. I think he uses a drum pedal when he plays. It's kind of making me want to get one. So.
Yeah, I forget. Because I haven't seen one of his solo shows just because we're all so busy in a good way with what we're doing. Does he use one of those big skinny powered speakers as well?
I believe he does have one of those. I can't remember if he was using that at the Springfield or at the Crown Point Club, but his sound was just so full, and I don't know, it sounded great.
Yeah. Having transitioned more so over the last couple of years, Max, from open mics to hosting your own 2-3 hour shows, was that a challenge for you initially? How does your mind shift going from just being an open mic artist and collaborating with musicians, a few songs here and there, to you're the guy for 2.5, 3, sometimes 4 hours?
The first few were definitely pretty nerve-wracking. It was a very new experience to me, and I had a lot of adrenaline definitely going into it.
Yeah.
But had a great experience, and I feel like once I start playing, it like just kind of like goes away, and I just feel good no matter what I'm doing and
What did you find to
in.
be the biggest challenge your first couple of shows?
Probably,
was it the equipment? Was it reading the audience? Was it yourself initially? What kind of set list do I want to write or not write? Do I want to wing this on the fly? Like, what were some challenges initially, adjustment wise?
I think for me, one of the biggest things getting started was memorizing so many songs. I played mostly like off my iPad for a long time, just reading stuff.
I still do. Don't have any guilt. I still do. Don't.
Well, I do with some stuff. It's fun to like mess around and do stuff. But
wedding songs, if you get like that wedding list, like if you get hired, I got to take a snapshot of those lyrics right there.
Definitely. And a lot of those songs aren't songs I really want to memorize anyways.
Fair. I totally relate to that. Yeah. I'm going to play this one time and one time only. But then I never delete the lyrics. I always keep them. I'm like, oh, am I going to use that?
Yeah, it's always nice to have as like a backup. But
sure,
I will say that was probably one of the biggest things for me was because once I memorized like enough to play for 2 or 3 hours just from memory, I noticed such a big change in like my confidence and like my connection with like the people I was playing to, just being able to like look out and like kind of be in touch with everyone. It's just a big difference. But I will say the other thing that was kind of that was probably the hardest getting into it was the sound system setup for me, because I had never really done anything like that. So I went out and bought a PA speaker, and I have a nice little Fishman amp, and I kind of just had to learn how to do it all. And
those are so cool.
Yeah,
the Fishman amps, those are so cool.
It's
you
great,
just put it right on the table, and you just plug in 1/4-inch cable for guitar or an XLR for mic, and there you go. That's your sound, and you just.
It's enough to play like most gigs around here, honestly, which is really cool.
And I would imagine that would be perfect, let's say, for if you're doing the songwriting sessions at Fletcher Memorial Library, for example, which we mentioned about before. How many of those have you done so far? And have you found those to be pretty rewarding as far as the number of people that have showed up? And just, I would imagine it gives you a teaching perspective, right? On like being a host for that, right?
Yeah, it kind of does, which is a little weird to me just because, like, I feel like I'm the last person who should be teaching things about music. I know, like, nothing
own
about
worst critic. Don't
theory.
be your own. No, don't be your own worst critic, man. Come on.
But I've done a few of them so far. I think I've done 3, so not that many. The last one I had the biggest turnout. There were, I think, like 7 people, which is a decent number for just getting started. But it's been cool. It was a really... It definitely felt really productive. I kind of was basing it off of writers' rounds sessions, which is a big thing in like Nashville that they do. And it's kind of like an open mic, but it just has like a little bit more structure in that after you play usually an original song, there's like a feedback session where you kind of discuss it with the group.
Did you see that hands-on in Nashville? Like, did you travel down there and see that,
I haven't
just watch
seen it
from
hand-on.
afar?
I've heard about it from other people, and I've like looked up YouTube videos about it and stuff to kind of get a sense of it.
Have you ever wanted to go down to Nashville?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's fun. I've been twice. It's worth the experience for sure. As a visitor and as a working musician, I highly recommend it.
It's on my list. Yeah, it's high up there.
But that's awesome. I mean, 7 people for doing that at the library is a pretty good turnout, because I've been in there and I've played music in there for events before too. So from the songwriting approach, how do you approach it when you're writing one of your own originals? Do you start with, let me figure out what open chords I want to use or what bar chords? Do you figure out a melody that involves single note lines or like 2 notes at a time? Do you think lyrically first? When you're writing, what comes to mind first? Does it come instantly? Does it take years to write a song? It depends on what you're feeling, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I think that experience can be very different. And that's kind of one of the things that we discuss at the songwriting sessions that I've been hosting is like people's approach to how they write music and like just helpful things that they want to share about it. And one thing I think that I'll say is that one like kind of consensus that everyone had was that when you get an idea or you have like a thought that you think might go somewhere, you always want to write it down.
Write it down.
because
Otherwise, you're going to
can
forget it
be
the next
gone.
day. Yeah, exactly. And that could be writing it on a piece of paper. That could be putting it in your notepad on your iPhone. I've done that with chord
Definitely.
changes and lyrics every once in
A
a while.
lot of times
Yeah.
what I'll do actually is I'll have like a melody come into my head and I'll make a little voice memo and just like sing a line and then I'll piece that stuff together. Actually, some of like my favorite songs that I've written have been like that. I was driving down to Pennsylvania last year actually, and I wrote like this whole song just in the car.
That's
Just
awesome.
like on my phone, just
Not while
recording little
driving,
voice
obviously.
notes.
Yeah, not while driving, obviously.
Well,
Or-
not like writing.
pull
but
over on
just,
the side of the road when I want a little break. I got to get a cup of coffee from the gas station. Here's an entire song. Yeah.
I would just press the button on my phone and like sing a line.
Oh,
and
that's
then when I
awesome.
got to my destination, I kind of pieced it all together and I was like, wow, this is like a really good song.
Was the
I
title
like
The
this.
Destination City?
That's a good idea.
It could be, right? Yeah, I know. Yeah. So what is your favorite genre of music to write in regards to like bluesy, folk? I mean, I know, like you said, you cover a lot of alternative music.
I would say I'm still kind of figuring that out, I think, a little bit. But I would say it probably leans more towards the like folk side of things. Most of my original songs.
Do you have
so
a favorite
far.
folk artist that you like listening to?
I don't know. That's kind of tough for me. I like more like older folk stuff, but I don't know if I really have a favorite artist. Also, a lot of the genres that I like, I feel like cross into that territory. So, like for instance, that band I mentioned, Camp, I would say a lot of their stuff is pretty folky. Like they have a banjo and they do a lot of like almost like bluegrass too, a little bit. I would say it's kind of one of my influences. So.
Yeah. Are you a fan of the Lumineers? I saw them in concert years ago.
I do like the Lumineers. Yeah, I've been covering Cleopatra since I
Yeah.
started playing.
Yeah. Who are the big ones from that area? It was the Lumineers, Mumford and Sons. Those are great folk, but they jam a little bit also too. Like they're folky, but
Yeah, that's kind of more the folk genre that I would say I'm into is like Lumineers, Mumford and Sons. I've heard it called Stomp and Holler before, the genre,
yeah.
which I think is a
can
little
see
funny.
that. Yeah.
But I think it's technically folk.
Yeah. Do you have switching gears always with the conversations in the podcast, which is part of the twist part of the Tasty Twist? What's been one of your favorite outside of Pearl Jam? What's been one of your favorite concerts that you've seen live?
Favorite concerts. Actually, one of the best concerts I ever saw was at the Tulip Festival in Albany. And it was this band, The Greeting Committee, they're called.
Wow.
And they were like insanely good. I think there were 10 people in the crowd.
Wow. Okay.
But it's probably like my top concert that I've ever seen. They told this story that their van was in like an accident on the way there, and they faced death, and then they came up on the stage, and they were just like so energetic.
Dude, that's an album in and of itself right there. Are you kidding? Yeah, that's an album in and of itself.
I think so.
That's cool. Do you have a favorite concert that you've done so far in your career? Do you have a largest number of crowd, like people that you've played in front of? Like, what's the largest crowd? What's your most favorite concert you've done?
So mostly
Doesn't have to be in Vermont. It could be anywhere that you've traveled outside of Vermont for work.
Gotcha. The only place I've really traveled is Pennsylvania to play. I have a cousin there, and we do some duo gigs sometimes. But I've mostly just been playing in like restaurants and bars, kind of like a dinner scene. So it's hard to like gauge the crowd level, I guess, in those kind of things. But I wouldn't say I've really had most of my experiences like playing to a crowd where everyone's like really listening and watching has come from open mics in the area. I would like to venture more into that. I know I was actually talking to Michelle, the librarian, and she was saying she's trying to host some like September sessions there for music maybe. So I was hoping to maybe get in there and kind of have that experience too.
When's your next songwriting session at the library?
I believe it's the 26th. It's the
August 26th?
yeah, of this
Good to know
month.
for those that want to go out to Fletcher Memorial Library. 5 it starts, you do it?
Yeah, so we've been doing it 5 to 7, or 5 to 6:30 technically.
And anybody can go to that, right? Anybody that
Yeah,
wants
I've been thinking a little bit about kind of rebranding it almost for the next one and just kind of advertising it more as an open mic, and less of a songwriting session. But more of an open mic focused on original music, I guess, and not just for musicians either. I really want to include like poetry and other
Sure.
art forms to kind
Sure.
of make it more inclusive and to get more people interested.
You ever thought about writing a book like what Jim Yeager just recently did?
Oh, really? He did? I didn't know
No,
that.
he just recently released a book called Identity Crisis. I bring it up because this could be part of the lifestyle of musicians. They have other hobbies, like they like to cook, they like to travel, ski, snowboard, or write books. So have you ever thought about writing a book per se?
I haven't in my adult life. When I was younger, I started writing like a fantasy book, which was kind of cool, like in middle school. But I do really like writing. I think I've tried like writing some poetry actually recently, and I think that's like more my kind of outlet. I mean, I do like writing like longer forms of those kind of things, I guess, like a book would be, but I don't know. It's a big commitment.
Do you like listening to comedians?
I do, yeah. I like stand-up comedy.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any favorite one in particular? Because when I'm on the road, sometimes I'll listen to sports talk radio or comedy to mix it up from music.
Oh, that's a good idea. Who have I watched recently? John Mulaney.
He's hilarious.
He's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I used to like more like dark comedy when I was younger, but I kind of transitioned out of that.
You like some of the greats like George Carlin or Louis Black? Louis Black, who's still alive.
Oh yeah,
they're some of my
they're
favorites. Yeah,
definitely good. I've heard most of their stand-ups, I think.
every recording I've done of the Tasty Twist so far, our back producers of Okemo Valley TV, Peter, Patrick, Rebecca, I'm always quoting Louis Black, George Carlin, and Seinfeld clips like to them, like just because it's cool to laugh. Don't you think it's an important part of what we do as artists too? That's also a selling point, I believe, as being an artist as well too, is when you're on stage having fun, your confidence goes up, and so everybody in the audience reflects on that. So one of the questions I was going to ask, do you have any particular moment in a 2 or 3 hour show that you're doing where you look out in the audience and there's 3 or 4 people that go, that's the guy, what he's playing right there, now we're hooked on, if we weren't hooked on before?
Definitely. Yeah, I've had that experience, and I've definitely noticed certain songs like will really catch people like that. Like I think I mentioned I've been playing Tainted Love a little bit by Soft Cell, an acoustic cover, and I've noticed people really kind of like that. Like I've had people get up and dance and stuff.
Do you play it in the exact key, or do you modify the key for your vocal range?
I do actually play it in that key.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I get that falsetto really going. Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever done karaoke?
I haven't actually, but it seems really fun.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who does karaoke around here. So, didn't they used to do it on Sundays at Off the Rails?
They did for a while, but I don't think they're doing that anymore. I'm not really sure why.
Yeah.
As far as I know, there's not really karaoke in the like immediate area anymore.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite venue in Vermont that you've played up to this point?
Favorite venue?
Or a top 3? It's gonna be like a good game show question, like a top 3. Yeah.
I don't know if I haven't played like all that many venues, honestly, but I think some of the farmers markets I've played have been like some of the most fun.
Those are great networking gigs.
They are, yeah. The one up in Northfield I did for the first time this summer.
Where's Northfield? Why am I drawing a blank
it's,
on?
It's like the next exit north of Randolph.
Oh yeah, right off of 89, like exit 4.
I think it
3 or 4. Exit.
Yeah, around there.
Cool.
Yeah, it's like 10 miles north of Randolph.
Not that far from Barrie area or Williamstown. Yeah, cool.
But I was at their farmers market last month for the first time, and it was really cool to kind of play something like that, and just a different experience. And I was like standing barefoot on the grass. So can't beat that.
Yeah. Of course, you got to be careful with rocks and sticks on the grass. If you have a rug or something, that usually helps from your feet absorbing any. Once again, we're talking with Max Cassano, local resident, Plymouth, Ludlow, Vermont area. You mentioned you have 9+ shows coming up this month. You want to tell us a little bit about those?
I do, yeah. So this is the busiest I've been with music this month. I think the most I've had before was like one a week in a month, so like 4 or 5. So this is almost like double that, which is cool. And it was kind of my goal for the summer to like get to this point where I'm playing like not quite full time, but like a lot more than I was the last year. So I guess I I don't know. I'm excited for all of them. I mean, there's a lot of places that I've never played before. Like I'm playing at Long Trail Brewery tomorrow,
Great
which
spot.
I've never
Yeah.
played at, which
Great
seems
spot.
really cool. I think
Yeah.
I'll be like out by the river on the deck.
Yeah, yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, yeah, they do music there a couple days a week. Same with their parent company Harpoon out in Windsor, where they do them on Sundays, and I think they do them sometimes on Thursdays over there as well too. That's great. Yeah, where else you playing in the
So I'll be playing at Seesaw's Lodge.
great spot also too? Yep. Shout out to Sarah and her whole team down there, Frank, everybody there. Great spot.
Yeah, definitely. It's a fun.
That's a
place
fun
to
room
play.
down there, downstairs or upstairs. I like playing on either floor is really cool at Seesaw's.
In the summer, they actually usually put me out on the deck, like facing the pond that they have. So I kind of play like out to everyone on the. It's like a little amphitheater.
Yeah.
Almost the way it's set
Have
up.
you had their pizza there in the hut?
I have.
It's
yeah.
so good.
It's tasty.
I tell them that all the time. It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, they have great food.
Do you have a favorite type of food that you like eating out at gigs or that you like making?
Well, I do like to cook a lot. I make a lot of like pasta and pizza from scratch, which is fun. That's probably like the thing that I like to make the most.
What's your favorite type of pizza?
Favorite type?
Yeah, for the pizza fans, check it in.
Probably like an eggplant mozzarella pizza.
Nice, nice. I've been big into pepperoni and sausage pizzas lately.
That's always good.
Yeah,
Can't
yeah.
go wrong with pizza.
No. I also like the classic Vermonter pizza where I believe they do maple syrup, apples, bacon slices, and it's a
yeah,
white pie.
sweet pizza.
Oh, it's so good.
It's pretty good too.
So good. Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm happy that you have a lot coming up and everything. Is there any kind of getting back into the songwriting sessions that you've been doing at the Ludlow Library? Is there any advice you would give to people younger than us that might have writer's block, that are looking to kind of get a jump start into writing their own original music? Like, is there anything from a confidence level that you've experienced so far that you'd like to share with the audience? And to me also too. Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. I would probably say the biggest thing for me is like putting myself in a setting that's kind of like conducive to being creative and to writing music and like having those kind of inspirational thoughts that lead to a song. I think it can be easy to just kind of like fall into a routine. And for me, like one of the biggest things that helps with writing is just like going out in nature, like hiking up a mountain with my guitar and just sitting at the top trying to play something and see what comes out, really.
That's awesome. Have you ever traveled out west for hiking or just sightseeing?
I've actually never been out west. But
Never been out west?
I love
Oh,
to
man.
snowboard, and I'm thinking about going out there this next year.
Now, where are you thinking of going?
I don't know. Probably Colorado, but I'm not really too sure.
Do you buy the Epic Pass or the Icon Passes?
I haven't in the past, but I was considering it, although I kind of want to ski Killington this year, so I think I might go that route. I'm not really sure.
That's awesome. It's interesting you bring up surrounding yourself in the right scenarios for the creative process. I would imagine that's anything, whether someone's getting in the comedy or writing books, just putting yourself in certain situations that make you comfortable, or sometimes being uncomfortable could lead to creativity as well too. There's so many great stories that you see from very successful business owners that really push the grind, whether they're working 18 plus hour days, that they did a lot of things that they really did not want to do. That was part of the job that ultimately led them to where they are. I would imagine the same goes for songwriters too.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, I don't know if I've had that experience quite as much, but there have definitely been like uncomfortable emotions that I've been dealing with that songwriting has really helped, and like kind of they've definitely the approach, I guess, or like the way that I've written them has been a lot different kind of going into it with that too.
Outside of what we all have to do now with getting with the times with technology that we mentioned before, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, social media, letting the world know where we are playing in Vermont or anywhere in the world for that matter, how do you best prep for a show, for your own show?
Well, I was when I first started playing, I was spending like most of the day that I would have the gig just practicing for like hours before. Um, but now I've gotten to the point where I'm so comfortable with all my songs that I don't really need to do that
The
anymore.
gig is the practice.
Kind
The
of,
gig,
yeah.
the gig,
And I
the
hear
gig,
that from a
yeah.
lot of people, I think. But,
Yeah.
But when you're playing a lot of gigs, I think that's kind of how it almost has to be if you want to have like a balance in your personal life.
Oh,
too.
absolutely. Yeah. It's hard balancing all that sometimes, man, you know? And you also have your other jobs as well too, like you mentioned. So to balance all of that is,
Yeah, it's
it could be a
definitely a
doozy.
busy schedule.
it could be a doozy. Yeah. There was one other thing I was thinking, along that line, but brain fire. Oh, well, switching gear, the twist part of things. One thing we forgot to do, and we're going to segue into these bad boys right over here. We're going to play one of Max's originals. We forgot to rub our little Buddha statue. You can rub his head also too for good luck.
Okay, I'll rub his head.
Yeah. Goose Fraba. Quoting from Anger Management right there. Wishing us all good luck on the performance. What do you say we do an original? What do you have in mind that we're going to play?
Sure. I was gonna play a song that I kind of wrote. Let's see, I wrote it over this last winter. It's actually called "Up and Coming," which is kind of funny because I think
Nice.
you said that a couple times earlier. But it's kind of about having a hard time with change, which I think
We
is
all
just
can
part
relate
of
to
life.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, we all can relate to that.
And I kind of wrote it like, I don't want to say out of anger, but maybe like out of being annoyed a little bit with the change that was going on.
That's a good, honest assessment right there. Yeah, yeah.
And but I think the message behind it is kind of more like to maybe ride it out and see what happens, and maybe not all change is actually like bad, even though it might appear that way at first.
It's a good life philosophy, because anybody that goes through change not once but twice or more gains a more humble experience on life. I've gone through changes a couple of times in my life personally and also with work career, and you develop a little bit more confidence that way also too. It's like, hey, this worked or this didn't work. So
Yeah, definitely.
that's cool.
And I think my song is a little bit more about not me changing, but it's kind of about like the town around me changing and like the area
Sure.
that we live in changing.
Sure. Absolutely. How many originals do you have to date that you play out and about or that you have available on your YouTube channels?
I only have a few available on YouTube. I've just really gotten comfortable with the recording process in a studio, and I think my first this song I'm actually about to play is the first one that I've recorded that seems like it's in a good enough place that I'm going to release it on some streaming platforms.
That was with John and Joel down in Londonderry.
Yeah, John and Joel with In the Moment Records down there. They've been great. I kind of got into it with them last year, and it was kind of a learning process for me and a little bit for them because they were just starting out with it too. But now this year I feel like things are really dialed in, and it's been going great, all my experiences.
Do you like the
that I've
studio
had in there.
process, the recording process?
I do. At first, I didn't know if I liked it, but the more I've done it, I do really like it.
You could probably feed off of each other too. Like you, John, and Joel can all throw ideas together, even though you're the musician at the time and they're the ones in charge of the studio. You guys can all piece together ideas. It's kind of working with a good management team in a company, for example. If you guys get on the same page, it could be a really fun experience.
Definitely. And that's kind of like my weakness with songwriting is like the production and all the other elements that you want to add to a song to give it like that full sound. I just like, I don't really know exactly what I want and like what it's going to sound like and how to do it. And that's really what they've been great with, is just like insights into that and experience and just being really talented musicians too.
And
Being
much
able
like
to-
playing out and about, the more that you do it in the studio, the more experience you gain and the more confidence you get with that too. The old
Definitely.
saying, practice is perfect. And guys, once again, thank you for tuning in to episode number 4 of the Tasty Twist podcast with our good friend Max Casano. Let's play the tune. What do you say?
All right.
Let's
Sounds
do
good.
it. Awesome. Ooh, Max, we need shades. Yes.
These will help.
Action. All right. Let's do this.
All right. It's my original song, Up and Coming. This town is up and coming. Oh, be down and going. no one knows. Better off that way. Too hard to stay. Making exit strategies. Maybe I should stay a while longer. Watch as all the things I love go under. Wait it out another year. It gets worse. I'll still be here. For trading trees for the industries. No one riots in the streets. Thought of leaving come to mind. Then the care must be gone for the forests and the young, and the land we are living on. Maybe I should stay a while longer. Watch as all the things I love go under. Wait it out another year. It gets worse. I'll still be here. Don't wanna give up on it now, but a year is a long time to keep hanging around. So maybe I should stay a while longer. Watch as all the things I love go under. Wait it out another year. It gets worse. I'll still be here. That's my fear.
Very nice.
Yeah, you too.
Little jazzified chords in there. Dude, that was awesome. That was really good.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I could see you again now. Yeah.
Whoa.
Awesome. Dude, did you have a blast? This was a good time.
Yeah, this was really
It was
fun.
a lot of fun. The Buddha approves also as well, too. And Max, thank you. Guys, thank you also as well, too. Shout out to Okemo Valley TV, Patrick, Rebecca, Peter. Thank you guys for producing another fun episode number 4 of the Tasty Twist. Don't forget, you can watch it on live television on Sunday nights on Comcast or VTEL, and you can download it on any streaming platform such as Roku or on the Okemo Valley TV app on your smartphone, just to name a few. Max Casano, thank you, brother. It was a pleasure. We'll see you guys all next time.
What you